The answer for this one should be A. So, to do the square root of 32, 32 breaks into 16 times 2. The square root of 16 is 4. 4 radical 2. So in order to do this one, we have 4 times the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 4 times radical 2, so it'd be 12 radical 2, which is B. For this one, the square root of 25 is 5, so you just have 4 times 5, which is equal to 20. So that's D. So we have 3 radical 18, which is the same thing as 3 times radical 9 times radical 2. Square root of 9 is 3, so we have 3 times radical 2. 3 times 3 is 9 radical 2, so your answer was C. Winning numbers for today are 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Today's objective is the same as yesterday, to simplify radical expressions. So we have 4 radical 8 over radical 3. So we start by multiplying by square root of 3 over the square root of 3. So that would give us 4 radical 24 all over 3. So we keep the 4, and the square root of 24 is 4 times 6 all over 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So 4 times 2 radical 6 over 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Keep the radical 6 over 3, and 8 over 3 doesn't reduce, so your final answer is 8 radical 6 over 3. For our second example, we have 3 radical 2 over radical 3. We start by multiplying by radical 3 over radical 3. So that gives us 3 radical 6 over 3. The 2 3's cancel, so all you're left with is radical 6. So we have 4 radical 20 over radical 5. So we start by multiplying by radical 5 over 5. So we have 4 radical 100 all over 5. Now, the square root of 100 is 10. So we just multiply it by 10 over 5. 4 times 10 is 40 over 5, which is equal to 8. And 8 would have been your final answer.
Anybody else on the bonus?
So we have 4 radical 12 over radical 3. So we first multiply by radical 3 over radical 3. So we end up with 4 radical 36 all over 3. That's equal to 4 times the square root of 36 is 6 over 3. That's 24 over 3, which is 8. So now we have 5 radical 2 over 3 radical 6. Again, we're going to do the same steps as we did yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and start by multiplying by radical 6 over radical 6. So we would get 5 radical 12 over 3 times, and the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is 6. So right now we have 5 radical 12 over 18. Now we want to break down radical 12. So that's equal to 5 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3 all over 18. The square root of 4 is 2, so we have 5 times 2 times radical 3 all over 18. 5 times 2 is 10. We have 10 radical 3 over 18. And now we look to see if anything can reduce. 2 goes into both 10 and 18. So 10 divided by 2 is 5 radical 3. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. So your final answer would be 5 radical 3 all over 9. So we have 3 radical 12 over 5 radical 4. So again, we start by multiplying by the square root of 4 over the square root of 4. So we get 3 radical 48 all over 5 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 4 is just 4. So we have 3 radical 48 all over 20. Now we want to break down the square root of 48. So we have 3 times the square root of 16 times the square root of 3. 16 times 3 is 48, all over 20. The square root of 16 is 4. So we have 3 times 4 times the square root of 3, all over 20. 3 times 4 is 12, radical 3, over 20. And now we look to see if anything goes into both 12 and 20, and 4 happens to go into both of those. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. We keep the radical 3. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So your final answer will be 3 radical 3 all over 5. So for this one, we start out by multiplying this whole thing by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5. So we have 4 times the square root of 30 over 5 times radical 5 is just 25. And the square root of 30 does not break down, and 4 over 25 does not reduce, so your final answer would be 4 times the square root of 30 over 25.
7 in. Anybody else want some more time?
So we have 3 radical 12 all over 2 radical 6. So we multiply by radical 6 over radical 6. So we have 3 times the square root of 72 over 2 times 6. 72 breaks down into 36 times 2 over 12. And the square root of 36 is 6, so 3 times 6 times the square root of 2 all over 12. 3 times 6 is 18, radical 2 over 12. 18 and 12 divide by 6. So 18 divided by 6 is 3, radical 2. And 12 divided by 6 is 2, so your final answer will be 3 radical 2 all over 2.
17. That one would clearly